Good evening and welcome. My name is Celeste Prescott, Public Information Officer with Southwest Incident Management Team 1. Thank you for joining us for the Taos Canyon and Hermits Peak fire update for May 28th. We are currently reporting 314,228 acres, and we are happy to report 50% containment with still 2,950 personnel assigned to the fire. I'm going to go ahead and start it off tonight with Southwest Incident Management Team 1 Operations Section Chief Jason Coyle for an update on the North Zone.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So this is going to be the last update for me, and at the end of my update, I'm going to bring up my counterpart from PNW2 and introduce him. But before we get to that, let's talk about today. So over the last several days, one of the things that I've brought up multiple times is appreciate the context, define the problem, and develop an approach. So last night when we were looking at the context after we got the IR, it was that we had a number of different isolated points of heat, both close to the fire's edge and actually one of them outside of the fire perimeter that were noticed, that were picked up last night by our infrared flight. So what we did today was we developed a search and destroy map. With the help of our GIS, our mapping folks, they identified all of these individual points of heat that were within 600 feet, so within 200 yards of the perimeter of the fire. And then they made a map for us that shows those sources of heat, and then the coordinates for each one of them, the GPS coordinates. One of those lay outside the line. So this morning, Del Rosa Hotshots climbed up on top of a ridge to the northwest of where the thumb's print was off the northwest side of the fire below 518, and they found a 10 by 10 area of fire. So it's a couple things that brought to light. One is it served as a reminder of why at this stage of the game it's important to zoom in on every one of those individual sources of heat or potential sources of heat. And it also brought to light, we've talked about several days prior, was the fact that with all the ember wash that occurred during those areas of large fire growth or those periods of large fire growth, that some of that heat is going to go unnoticed. So, we had 63 at the beginning of the day. I feel like even with the wind blowing on it today, we're going to have less, but it just validates the need to do that meticulous work. So the other stuff that was going on today was basically patrolling, engines driving around, especially near the populated areas where the values are, where the homes are, and making sure that none of the smoke that was starting to pop up presented a threat to the line or a threat to anybody's house. And there was 3 different interior pockets that were visible from the Holman area and then from the 434 road, and they were able to confirm that all of those were well interior. But as you get into the continued wind event over the next several days, you'll expect more of those. So another thing about appreciating the context is that, we've been working on indirect lines far away from where the fire's perimeter is to make sure that those lines are in place and ready to be used in the event that becomes necessary. So the work on those lines is important, but it is not as urgent as it was before. So today we actually had a piece of equipment cause a fire on one of those lines near Angel Fire, up there near where the cell tower site is. So that fire was contained at 1/4 of an acre, but armed with that new piece of information, our previous mitigation. So when something bad happens, if you want to reduce the impact of that bad thing, you put mitigations in place. So our mitigations were that where each one of these groups of heavy equipment was working, we had engines with them to help extinguish those fires. And as we considered the weather that we have over the next several days and the weather that materialized this afternoon, and the fact that this work is going on beyond all of our control lines, so we elected to stop doing any of that spark producing work during the heat of the day. So that was something that I hadn't thought of, something that the incoming team provided as a suggestion, and once we heard it, we're like, yeah, that makes good sense, especially based on all the factors that I just told you about. So that doesn't mean that the work's not going to be going on. It just means that we're going to change how we do things. So the spark producing work is done early in the morning, and then later on things like rubber-tired skidders and other pieces of equipment that are working up there that are less likely to cause sparks, that they could still continue the work. But if you heard about a fire near Angel Fire, that's true, it happened, it is contained, and we've took measures immediately, and from what I understand, those measures will continue to prevent that from happening while we're in this critical fire weather period. All right, the repellers that were put in by Serpent Lake, they were able to come out today. They got their work done, and we're able to extract them, which is good because getting help into them where they're at, they were delivered by air. There's no way to get there easily by ground, so we're glad to know that they're out. There were no fires outside the line, and the suppression area on the suppression repair, that's basically what we call rehabbing stuff. The damage that we did during suppression, when we fix it, is suppression repair. On the east side of the fire where it's been contained is continuing, but we have not, and it's my understanding that there will not be doing any work along the major roadways, the 120 road, the 434 road, any of those open roadways over this holiday weekend, and we didn't do any today, and that's just because there's too many vehicles on the road, too many motorcycles on the road for us to feel like we could do that work safely. And the satellite IR and air attack, satellite IR that we got today, this modus inverse it's called, and the air attacks that were up until 11:50 when we shut down the aviation, none of them found any additional areas of concern that needed to be addressed. And so it's our hope that the work we did will allow that to continue as PNW2 team takes over. So there's really no need to go to the map today because the stuff I'd be pointing at would literally be single points of fire that they addressed. But suffice it to say that we had 63 of those points this morning, and that I believe that there's far less now. We'll get another IR flight as soon as it's available, and I'm sure that the incoming team will continue to validate that. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you Kyle Cannon. So Kyle and I have worked together multiple times in the past. I'm sure you're going to be in good hands, and I'm sure, and actually when we were practicing on the map, his Spanish is better already at pronouncing the words than mine was after 2 weeks. So with that, thanks again, and take care.
Thank you so much, Jason. And I do want to address all the really sweet and thoughtful comments that were dropped in on the chat last night. And we did pass all of those on to Jason. We are so lucky to just have an absolute rock star operations section, and we really appreciate all your guys' support. We're going to send it down to our partners on the south for California Interagency Incident Management Team 5 Operations Section Chief John Chester.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the South Zone briefing here. So today what we'll do is we'll get started up here in the Big Pine area in Division Alpha Bravo. What we had in there yesterday was a little bit of an increase in fire activity around the community. Today we've spent considerable effort, and last night in there working to secure the area around some structures as the fire was backing off the hill. In that area, considerable heavy fuel loadings of blowdown. That's just the trees and the vegetation that was impacted by some winds over the winter. So it created a little bit of difficulty, but we've got folks in there. We've doing good work in there to minimize the effects of that as it backs down the hill towards those structures and stopping it and halting it to where away from the structures. So a lot of good work is continuing in that area. As we come back around divisions Alpha, Bravo, and Branch 11, answering a few calls for service back in that area. People calling in and letting us know where some smokes are. We appreciate those calls. It allows us to go out and validate that things are still within the lines. So we send people out to look at those and make sure that it's still good. Coming around the southwest end of the map there, Boreas Peak area, good work is continuing in that area. We have been able to put a little bit of a black line, which is line that we feel is secure in that area due to all the hard work that's happened in there. The fire is back down to the control lines, and good productive mop up and extinguishment of the hot spots in that area is still ongoing, but we were able to put some black line in there. Additionally, in that area down there in the upper Colonias, lower Colonias areas, as we start progressing northward, we do have folks out there and they're gritting the green, the unburned areas adjacent to the fire lines, continuing to look for more and additional hotspots if they were to arise. So we put foot patrols spread out in a systematic manner so that they can go cover that area and ensure that there's no additional hotspots in there. So as we continue up along the fire's edge there going into Bull Canyon, still good work occurring in there. We've got crews in there continuing to strengthen and hold those suppression lines that we've put in there, control lines that we've put in that area, working up to Elk Mountain, and we've been able to add some black line as we move up into there as well. Moving up further into the Spring Mountain area, that is one of the areas where you likely have seen some larger smoke columns coming out of there as things continue to burn up there in the wilderness. That's where you're also seeing some of the additional growth for the fire growing in that area, and it's steep, very rugged country and terrain where we can't get folks based on the fire conditions right on the fire's edge to take action, and that's why we've got folks off over here a little bit. Building and strengthening those control lines, moving up. Continuing the work from Beatty's or Iron Gate campground up Hamilton Mesa with the folks up there, hotshot crews, working that area to strengthen and develop those control lines that are going to go up to the divide with the and the boundary with the North Zone. So a lot of good work is still continuing in those areas, and we will be continuing as the days progress. The Taos Canyon, we still have the structure protection group in there. They're continuing to do the work of assessing and enhancing the defensible space that has occurred over the last around the structures over the past few weeks that this team has been in there. So we're doing a lot of good work still in those areas. To reaffirm one of the big pieces that we got in the Upper Colonias, Lower Colonias on the southwest corner. Is continuing to work with the Sheriff's Department to update or assess the need or the ability to put folks back into the residences as we gain more containment and more security on those control lines. Contributing factor now is trying to get through this high fire danger weather event that we got going on with the red flag warnings that are predicted over the next few days with the lower RHs, higher temperatures, and really strong winds. So that is a concern for us, and so we're continuing to make sure that we have people in there doing really good, strong work in that area. So with that, continuing the good work, trying to get things buttoned up so that we can get folks back into where they want to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that detailed update. And Stuart Turner is a fire behavior analyst with Southwest Team 1. So this will be his last report out. You will see a new face tomorrow night. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our fire behavior analyst, Stuart Turner.
Thanks, Celeste. Stuart Turner, I'm the fire behavior analyst for Southwest Team 1. As the fire behavior analyst, what I do is I predict what the fire is going to do, where it's going to go, how big it's going to get. And the big thing that's been driving the fire here in the last couple of days and will continue to drive it over the next several days is going to be the weather. So let's take a look at the weather matrix and see what's coming up for us for tomorrow. The big news is that red flag is going to be flying once again for tomorrow. A little bit of cloud cover, but not much. So that's going to get a lot of solar radiation out there, which will preheat those fuels and make them even more volatile. The temperature is going to be high enough that it's going to help with that preheating. And the humidities are going to be low enough to make all the fine dead fuels available, and many of the larger fuels will also be available. The overnight recovery is poor tonight and will be poor again tomorrow. So what that means is with that low overnight humidity recovery, that the fuels don't moisten up. They just stay dry, so they burn into the night, many times through the night, and then are available first thing in the morning once the sun comes up and the solar radiation hits those and preheats them. And then we talked a little bit about the Haines being that chimney effect. That's going to be at the high, so the damper is going to be wide open, allowing the fires to get bigger if they want to start growing. And the big thing for tomorrow is going to be those winds, 30 gusting to 45 or better. And that's going to be really important because the wind can be a big driving factor as it gets onto those those fine dead fuels. The saving grace for us tomorrow, we're going to have southwest winds or west southwest winds, depending on what area of the fire you're in. And that's a fairly good wind direction for most all of the fire tomorrow. It's going to be favorable for most all the western side of the fire, which is still mostly open line. As we look out through the week, we see on Monday, red flag again, dry, windy conditions will prevail. And then as we get into Tuesday, once again, we have critical fire weather, probably will be upgraded to a red flag in the days coming. And that's going to be another big day. One of the big changes there, you see some southeast component of the wind. That would be problematic for the west side. If any of that lines up with the canyons and open line, we may see some growth to the west if we get any kind of southeast or east wind on that. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, quite a ways out there for the forecast, but we do see some moisture coming in as far as thunderstorm possibilities. Unfortunately, that could be dry lightning, which would mean probably some new starts early on in that process, the first of the month or so. So let's go and look at the map and see just what I think will be happening. And let's go at the northwest corner or northeast corner, and we'll work our way down to the south. So those southwest winds will once again test all of that. And more importantly, interior fuel pockets will continue to burn out as they dry out and get exposed to any kind of wind in there. So just be aware you will probably still see interior smoke as those pockets burn out. Not expecting anything to come out of the lines. Those have been tested and retested over the last several weeks, so not expecting anything at this stage of the game to come out. As we come all the way past Las Vegas and come around the southern portion of the fire, once again, those winds are very favorable because they're helping push everything back in to the fire, and I don't think we'll see anything come out of there. Now we get over here to the southwest corner where the two fingers came out several days ago. Those have burned together and are in there busily consuming the fuels, and those will start to self-extinguish interior stuff. And along the line, you heard the crews are working hard to mop that up and get those lines secure. The one line that does cause me some concern is going to be the north piece of that northern finger. That's where it's going to be adverse to the wind, and you could still see some spots trying to get across there and get established in that Bull Canyon area and trying to move around throughout that area. If we don't have aircraft flying, those could be problematic ignitions in there. Most all this side of the fire is going to be very favorable for that southwest wind. It's going to be pushing back towards itself. We will see some growth out of here. This is in the Spring Mountain area in the wilderness. And what that growth wants to do is kind of fill in here. And we'll revisit this in a minute with some runs, and I'll show you what I think it's going to do. But it's just going to burn back into itself, but gradually grow. You're going to continue to see smoke coming out of there, and you'll probably see some interior islands burning as those get exposed to the wind and fire finds fresh fuels. Then the southwest winds will be very favorable through most all of this western side. We get up to Angostura. Here again, you heard from Operations Coil. They're finding some spots out there that have been sleeping, not showing themselves, and they were just waiting to get started. Fortunately, they found them and got them extinguished, so we don't have to worry about those. But there could always be some more out there that will raise their head in the next day or so as they get dried out and the winds get onto them. So we still have to pay attention to that. This is where we get that adverse wind again that could be pushing spots across the line and allowing the fire to move in that area. Not anticipating any of that, but there's always that possibility. We have the winds as strong as they are and the fuels as dry as they are. As we come up into Chacon, here again, this area needs to be tested, and it will be tested with these winds. Watch for any spots across the line that can get started without the Air Force flying. They could be difficult to control, and it brings us back to our start area. Want to reiterate, interior fuels will continue to burn. You're still going to see smokes throughout the fire as those pockets burn out and extinguish themselves, or we have to go in and extinguish those. Then as promised, let me go into my Google Earth here, and I'll show you the run that we did. Maybe. There we go. Down there in the Spring Mountain area. So this is the Spring Mountain area here. You can see the yellow is day one, and then we go out 5 days of little minimal growth to the west. But what it wants to do is fill in to the northeast and run back into itself. So the wind is really helpful in that circumstance, and that it's pushing it back into itself and not allowing it to make big runs to the west. And you can see that up and down from the Elk Mountain, Spring Mountain area, that would be very, very favorable wind for that type of activity. So once again, red flag day tomorrow, big day to get through. Remember, new starts can happen anywhere in the fire area where these red flags are flying. It may not just be on the fire footprint. It may be outside of the fire footprint. It may be from equipment that you heard about from the fire personnel. It could be from civilians. It could be from motorists up and down the interstate or the highways, dragging chains. All of that comes into play with initial attack tomorrow with the winds. If we can't fly the Air Force, it's going to be difficult to control any new starts. So we all have to be on our A game for tomorrow, because it is definitely a critical fire weather day with those winds and those dry fuels. That would be the end of my report.
Thank you so much, Stuart. And I'd like to share that Stuart has been on the East Coast pulling double duty, working his day job while helping us with fire behavior outlooks. And I really hope you get some rest before our next assignment, Stuart. I'm going to send it down south to San Miguel County Sheriff Chris Lopez.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Celeste and Southwest Team 1 for your great work and efforts in helping us get this fire secured. It's definitely been an honor working with you all, and I wish you all safe travels when you head back home. So with that and with Stu's report, I just want to really first talk about the fact that we do have fire restrictions here in San Miguel County. We are dealing with some pretty severe weather once again, as we have been throughout the fire. I believe 33 mile an hour sustained with gusts to 52 tomorrow is what they're calling for out of the southwest. So definitely potential for fire to get big if the opportunity is there. So I just want to make that very clear to everybody as we try and deal with what we have in front of us. We can't afford to be dealing with with more fires because of people not following the rules. Everybody needs to do their part and continue to work together to get through this event. So I want to start first with Calf Canyon subdivision there in Big Pine, Upper Gallinas Canyon. I know as I reported last night, we did an evacuation of that Calf Canyon subdivision. And as you heard from operations, they're doing a lot of good work in there to make sure that they get that taken care of and make sure that those houses are ready and prepped and secure, so we don't lose any more homes. That's definitely we've had enough of that, and hopefully we can get people back in there sooner than later. It's very unfortunate that we had to pull people out of there again. I just want to reiterate the fact that there was a really big unburned area there, which is right up against that subdivision, which we hadn't seen fire in there in quite some time, and so because of all those circumstances, we did end up in discussions. We thought it would be best that we pull those people out. So I just want to reiterate the fact of why we made that decision yesterday. And so I know the team's doing a lot of good work in there to make sure that gets taken care of. Now, once again, going back to the PECO side, is that's really where we still have more go status evacuations, both in the Upper Pecos Canyon from Monastery Lake up, and also in the upper lower colonias, Bull Canyon and Cow Creek. As you heard operations report, we've been working very diligently if you just look at the map, you can see that you're starting to see some control or containment line in there, that black line on that side, which is something that's very important for us in terms of really being sure that area is going to be safe for repopulation, and that definitely helps in the discussions with the team for that. So they continue to work on that, and as you heard the report, they're feeling really good about what's going on in there, even with the winds that they're dealing with. But of course, as I reported to you several times in the whole probably close to a month that we've been dealing with the fire up here on this west side on this Skyline Ridge. We're always kind of, well, for me, I'm always looking for that easterly wind, and I know in Tuesday they're kind of looking for an southeasterly, west to southeasterly wind, and then the following day possibly another southwesterly wind. So those are just something to keep an eye on as they continue to work on securing those containment lines for us, so that way we could continue our discussions on getting people back in to their residences and back to some kind of normalcy. I would also like to mention that as this incident continues to grow and we continue to deal with all the different parts of the fire, the flood mitigation, the cleanup, the debris removal, getting resources for those individuals that have been affected long term, all of those pieces. There's just more and more resources that are getting put in play. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of discussions going on, and there's a lot of moving pieces. And so I just want to let people know that we're continuing those discussions on a daily basis. And just understand that there's a lot of moving pieces, and we ask for you guys to be patient as all of this is being established. There's a lot of good work being done right now as we deal with all of this, and we continue to try and get those releases out to you, so that way you know what's going on. If you do have questions, call and ask, and we'll try and get those answers for you as soon as possible. I know there's still a lot of misinformation out there, and I think it's really important to reiterate that we're trying to put the most current and up-to-date information on our websites, on our pages, and at the county. Again, what is it? co.sanmiguel.nm.us. We try and do daily updates on there with all the information that we can get for you, and we'll continue to do that, so that way you have access to all the most current and available information. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. And Sheriff Lopez is another person who really deserves some time off. It is impressive. He has been heavily engaged since these fires began, and we were here on the South Zone over a month ago. And I just have to thank you for your continued dedication and support. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Colfax County Sheriff Leonard Baca.
Good evening, everyone. This is Leonard Baca. Thank you, Celeste. There's not much to report in Colfax. It's been windy. We did get some calls on the smoke plume from the fire on the dozer, but my understanding is they got that under control very quickly, as they talked about earlier this evening. The communities in the Vietnam Memorial area, Taos Pines, the village of Angel Fire, Black Lake Resort, and Hidden Lake are still in a ready status. We'll be keeping those there. We did have a discussion again today. Hopefully that will be changing after the wind event, especially coming in tomorrow. And then we'll be revisiting that after the holiday. I do have several deputies out. I know New Mexico State Police is out, as well as all of our local police partners and fire partners, making sure the roads are safe for all the firefighters and the apparatus, but also to make sure that everybody is complying with the fire ban that is in Colfax County, as well as in the state parks. There's also no fireworks. So we're out there making sure that everybody's following the rules and still being safe and having a good time out there. With that, I have nothing else to report. I want to thank Southwest Team 1 for all of your help and all of the advice and information that you've given to the communities. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, Sheriff. And we're going to really miss all of the cooperators around here. Really, they've become our friends, and I hope to see them all again sometime soon, but under different circumstances. I'm going to turn it over to Taos County Commissioner District 5, Candace O'Donnell.
Good evening, everyone. I want to talk a little bit about the roads, and I want to start here in Angostura. We're asking if you could please avoid this area on the 518. The Angostura area has been downgraded from go to yellow, so you're going to see a lot of people from Texas who have cabins. There's about 175 electrical hookups there, so there's going to be a lot of traffic from people coming to check on their homes, in addition to all the fire activity going on up there. You're going to have lots of fire personnel up there. So we'd like to see if the sightseers could just hold off a while. I've gotten reports of someone who almost ran a fire personnel vehicle off the road because they were looking at the fire and looking at the helicopters. So moving along the 518 all the way up past the monastery, all the way over to 73. Over here is where the Pinasco base camp is. At the Pinasco High School, there's 500 to 600 firefighters in that base camp. Then if you move down to the 73 corridor, you still have a lot of traffic going up there as people, fire personnel are going up to Bear Mountain and Ripley Point. So please be cautious along the 73 corridor and Santa Barbara Road. So moving up to 64, which is way up here. This is US 64 in Taos Canyon. This is extreme fire risk. This is a United States highway. The Rio Fernando volunteer fire chief has said they're going to be patrolling this area over the long holiday, protecting homes if any fire breaks out up there. So, as you've heard, there have been several music festivals canceled. There was one in the town of Taos that was canceled this weekend. There was a music festival in Eagle Nest that was canceled due to fire concerns. And for Taos County personnel, first responders, law enforcement, we just can't afford to tax them anymore. You know, I personally dread this Memorial weekend because of motorcycle accidents. And last year there was one person who died in a motorcycle accident. So if you're listening and you're on the fence about coming up to the motorcycle rally in Red River, please stay home. Don't come up here out of respect for all the personnel, ambulance personnel, law enforcement, and fire personnel. I also want to ask people, don't drink and drive, because we do not want to see you in our Taos County Adult Detention Center. The sheriff had a checkpoint last night. He arrested one person for DWI. They passed out over 900 safety flyers, and they will be in full force tonight, patrolling along with state police, passing out flyers. As you've heard, it's going to be a long, hot, windy, extreme fire condition holiday. So moving on with my report, I want to talk about the county's evacuation center. There are 17 people at the One Eye Gonzalez Agricultural Center. These displaced souls are from Mora, and some have to stay because of their doctor's orders to avoid the smoke. One elderly man has been there 32 days. I want to give a shout out to the volunteers at the Ag Center. Deacon Jill Klein of the St. James Episcopal Church has been organizing meals 3 times a day, and she's created a gratitude list. It includes a long list of Taos County organizations and people like David Elliott, Caroline Yeser, Merlinda James, Tanya Summer, the mayor of Taos, Monte's Chow Cart, the Farmhouse Cafe, Mondo Italiano, interfaith gathering, members of the Neem Karoli Baba Ashram, Eagles Auxiliary, Speedway, TCEDC, Clean Taos, Spin and Sparkle, Laundromat, and the Taos Community Foundation. Now, the Taos Community Foundation is taking monetary donations, and you can sign up for those monetary donations at the Taos Community Foundation's website. In addition, the Taos Community Foundation is giving out gas cards and laundry cards. So far, they've already given out 300 gas cards, and this is $50 twice a month. And you can sign up, if you haven't done that, at the Ag Center. So here's the immediate needs we have at the evacuation center. We need volunteers. We need people who would be willing to donate RVs or casitas, and you can sign up at Taos Connects. I think if you just Google it, it'll take you to the site. There's a list where you can sign up for volunteers. The love and compassion the Taos community has shown is amazing. So I just want to say our hearts go out to those who've lost everything in Mora and San Miguel. The gente of the north, the people of the mountains, the people of the land. I wish we could do more. I know help's not coming in soon enough for you to rebuild, but you will literally rise from the ashes. So I want to thank you for your courage, bravery, and resilience you have shown. May God's blessing be upon you. And if you can, stay close to home this weekend. Be with your family, hug your children, play with them, and tell everyone that you love them.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. We appreciate those words. And I'm going to bring up for the last time Southwest Incident Management Team 1 Incident Commander Carl Schwope.
Evening, Carl Schwope, I see here with Team 1. You know, as you've heard on the presentations this evening, a lot of progress, a lot of work being done by the fire crews, and a lot of good news. This fire has a lot of potential left in it. That stuff in the upper Pecos is in difficult terrain and going to be a challenge to get around. So every one of these windy red flag days we can get through without a lot of fire growth just gives firefighters more options, better opportunity to gain containment. So we'll look at today as a win. Still have a number of tough days to get through over the next 3 days with the wind and red flag conditions. Keep paying attention, and we'll keep making progress as we get through this fire. So as you've heard, this is Team 1's last day. We'll get through today's shift and tonight's shift, and then transfer command with Pacific Northwest Team 2 at 0700 in the morning. As I think back over the course of this fire, 52 days, and what the people of northern New Mexico, these communities have faced, have endured is exceptional. But here with Team 1, we've been honored to serve. We don't quite know what the future brings. The people we've met along the way have been just amazing people here in northern New Mexico. Met a lot of great people, made a lot of good friends. So if it works out that we come back here, again, we'll be honored. So with that, I'll introduce Tom Kurth. He'll be the incident commander with PNW Team 2. Met Tom nearly 20 years ago and was a mentor then and a mentor now, so I know you'll be in good hands. So thank you.
Thank you, Carl. There's no shortage of community appreciation for the team and the job that you guys have done here. So again, Tom Kurth, Incident Commander with the PNW 2 team, Pacific Northwest team. I've got my staff here with me, Joe Stutler, who is deputy, and trainee Jason Lewis. And you'll be seeing their faces up here in place as we rotate through. And then along with that, we have an organization that mirrors the Southwest team, so we'll pick up exactly where they leave off. And we take our direction from the federal, state, and local authorities here. And our short-term objectives are certainly hold during these events here. And our long-term objectives are secure this fire here and try to secure any movement and advancement with this fire that's been out here in such a long time here. I have an extensive background, and I've lived in Alaska for over 40-some years. And when I look at this country here, I see some similarities. That is some rugged, spectacular, fire-prone country, cultural diversity, and rugged individual personnel out there that live out there. And so we'll start with that foundation, and we'll pick up where this team left off here.
Thank you very much, Carl and Tom. And I will also be leaving with the Southwest Team 1. I would like to just express my gratitude for all of the folks who have welcomed us here. This is a beautiful part of the country. I had never been here in this summer here in Taos until now. I have come here to ski, and I love it. And I hope to come back soon, but again, under different circumstances. With that, you will see a new face up here tomorrow night. Chris Barth, I've known him for years. You're in good hands, and please stay safe until next time.